Haircut.
But I know him better than him. So, here we are. Here we are, and we're going to talk today about something called relationship. Now, if you look it up in the dictionary, or if you listen to much of the music that we hear in this day and age, it's all about relationship between two people, and specifically two people, right? Lovers or partners or significant others, whatever the heck that means, but generally between two people, and it has to do with the kind of love that makes you go out and buy flowers and candy on Valentine's Day. But I think that relationship is a whole lot more than that, and I think that you know that too. Okay? The reality is that relationship really is always between two people. Okay? But it can be any kind of two people. I mean, it can be me and my spouse, or me and my kids, or my mom, or, you know, the clerk at the grocery store, or the guy that just killed 17 people in Florida, or any two people are always, it's always a two-piece thing. Does that make sense? With one exception. And that is that your greatest and most important relationship is with whom?
Yourself.
Yeah. Because that's the only place it can come from. I can only have relationship with other people if I am who I am and know who that is, if that makes sense. Okay? So relationship is really something that happens every minute of every day. We're in a relationship with each other in some way or another with everyone that we meet, and even with people that we don't even know. Okay? And it is called what? Well, what does it mean? A relationship, we hope, comes from a place of mutual high regard. So that I can see the God in you as you can see the God in me. That's the word Namaste. That's what that means. So if we live in a life of Namaste, then whoever we meet, whoever we greet, is someone with whom we are in a positive relationship. There's a quote from Thomas Merton. Do you know who he was? Good Catholic guy. He said, "The beginning of love is to let those we love be perfectly themselves, and not to twist them to fit our own image. Otherwise, we love only the reflection of ourselves that we find in them." Do you do that? Do you find your relationships, well, I think many of us do that when we find our, quote, forever love for the first time. What we do is put on them all of the qualities we want them to have, not necessarily those that they do have. And then we get in trouble because we don't tell them that. Okay, but we do expect them to behave that way. And then when they don't, we're disappointed and we throw them out and find somebody else to have a partnership with. That is not relationship, folks. That's foolishness, but we do it all the time.
Well, it's dating yourself.
You can date yourself. That's probably the best way to do it. You know, Ram Dass talked about all relationships, even though there are two people in them, of being a triangle with three obviously angles. At each one of those angles, of course, there's you and then there's me. But when we come together as a triangle, that third force is the divine force, is the divine, as us. So each of us, as we create any relationship, we bring God into the picture. Think about that. So what I want to see us do, what I want to do actually, is to know that all of the time, so that when I connect with the clerk in the grocery store, I can make that holy connection and share that with her or with him. Obviously with the people that I meet every day, with each of you in this room. I'm hoping that before we're through, we'll have made a connection that really is that divine connection, you and me and the divine. And if all of our relationships are like that, what a beautiful world we could live in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are really three things about relationship that we're going to talk about today. Three things that I think make a relationship good, even perfect. The first of those is actual connection. In other words, being able to be in the same space that you are when you and I are talking. not off on a cloud someplace. There's too much of that goes on in this world. We pass each other without even noticing that the other is there. Does that make sense? We do that way too much. And it's not, anyway. The first one is connection. We'll talk a lot more about that in a few minutes. The second one is compassion. Okay? I said a minute ago, what about a relationship with poor Nicholas Cruz, who was in such pain that he had to kill 17 people? How do we be in a positive relationship with that man? By being as compassionate as we can be, and making some attempt to understand what were the factors that made this poor man so desperate. The alternative to that is just to call him wrong. And that doesn't solve anything. Well, we're going to get out of the politics of this here in a minute. We're not going to talk about guns, okay? The third one is commitment. Once you have made a connection with someone and you understand each other at the level of compassion, then there has to be some level of commitment to either continue that or to not continue that relationship. Does that make sense? Yeah. And sometimes commitment can be an interesting process. But those are the three things we're going to talk about today. So let's talk first about commitment, about connection. Okay? Connection is interesting in this day and age, isn't it? Because we walk around with these things in our pockets and we bump into each other. You know? But only physically because we can't see each other. You know, there's so little honest eye-to-eye contact communication going on these days. Do you know what I'm talking about? And we don't even talk to each other on the phone anymore. I mean, I don't know why I have a phone on my phone because I never use it. I text or I Twitter or whatever those other things are that we do. But we very rarely speak to each other and connect with each other at a conscious and caring level. And I think that eventually is going to be a problem for us. I think it's a good idea if we try really hard to connect with each other. So I wanted, since we do more better things by doing them than by listening to me talk, I would love for us to do that here for a minute. We've got a little song. I would love for you, if you are willing, to get up. And while this music is playing, go around to as many people as you want to contact and look them in the eye. Just look them in the eye. You willing to do that? We willing to do that? Let's do this. This little song has words, and you can use them if you want. Come on up here. Okay? Just go walk around. Look at people in the eye.
Good morning, sunshine.
Good morning.
I see all of you.
You are the face of God.
We'll make a whisper.
You are the face of God.
I thought I saw you walk by this place.
I see you, my friend.
And then I saw you again. And I'm like, whoa, it's her. I don't know why I didn't notice.
Good morning, my friend. How you doing? I see you. I see all of you.
You are the face of God. Hold you in my heart. You are
Good morning, sunshine. I see you. I see all of you. You have the most green hazel eyes. I see you, my friend. It's good to see you. How you doing? I see all of you. Good morning. I see you. I see all of you.
Really?
I see
Like
your
an next
back. I have trouble when I see
I think you had the trouble.
it. I see you, my friend.
How you doing? Scott Allen.
Good to see you.
I'm Scott. I'm Jay.
So how you feeling?
Wow.
Well,
Wow.
wow. Absolutely, huh? Can you imagine if Nicholas Cruz had had that kind of experience? What would have happened? It's when we ignore each other, when we don't pay attention to each other, when we avoid each other and we call each other names, and we make judgments about people. That's when we get in trouble. As long as we can stay connected, we will never have problems. And that's the truth. Susan Breland says, where there is no human connection, there is no compassion. And without compassion, then community and commitment and loving kindness and human understanding and peace all shrivel. Individuals become isolated, the isolated turn cruel, and the tragic hovers in the form of domestic and civil violence. That's what happens. Let's stay connected one with each other. And once we feel that connection one with the other, let's do one more thing, and that is to begin to understand each other. I've got a cool story about compassion at a very great level. Gregory Boyle, Father Gregory Boyle, is a Catholic priest in Los Angeles, in the barrio in Los Angeles. And he's written a couple of fabulous books because what he does, the members of his congregation are all gang members. He's right in the middle of the worst part of Los Angeles. And he's written books about this, and he's a very famous man now because what he does is to accept each of these people unconditionally and help them to do the best that they can do with their lives. He is completely compassionate with everybody, regardless of what the appearances are to these poor people. Okay? So he has a church down there. The church is called Guadalupe Mission, or Dolores Mission Church. And here's the story I want to tell you. In 1987, a while back, there was a situation of Immigration Reform and Control Act that caused homeless people, particularly people who of Hispanics mostly, to get kind of what's happening now. They set up a sanctuary in his church, and somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 100 men stayed there all the time. Now, and there were women too, but they were over in the convent in a different building. So in this building, where they still held church every Sunday, there were 100 people, not necessarily completely washed and wonderful people, living all the time. So you might imagine what it would smell like on a Sunday morning walking into church. Okay? It was an issue. They would get up on Sunday morning, they would try to clean things up, you know, they'd spray Airwick or whatever it is they did in the 80s. They would try to make things clean, they'd vacuum the carpets and all of that stuff, but there was this kind of continuing fragrance in the place. Now, we don't throw these people out because they're homeless. We take care of them because that's what we do, because we care about people. What he says about this, there was always the faintest evidence of people who had slept there the night before. And then on Sunday morning, they'd foo-foo the place the best they could. They'd sprinkle "I love my carpet" on the carpet, and they'd put potpourri here and there, and they'd even, you know, whatever they could do to make the thing. But the fact of the matter is, there was still a lingering odor, and there were people that were complaining and deciding that they wanted to go to church someplace else. So the smell was never overwhelming, he says, just understandably there. And then we decided that if we can't fix it, then we'll feature it. So on Sunday morning, he began the talk with, "What's the church smell like?" People are mortified, eye contact kind of disappears, women are looking in their purses for heaven knows what, but he says, "Come on now. What's the church smell like?" And Don Raphael booms out, "It smells like feet." It smells like feet. Excellent, but why does it smell like feet? Because many homeless men slept here last night, says a woman. Yeah. Well, why do we let that happen here? It's what we've committed to do, said someone. Well, why would anybody commit to do that? Somebody said, it's what Jesus would do. Well then, what's the church smell like now? Well, a man stands up and he bellows, "It smells like commitment." The place cheers and Guadalupe waves her arms wildly and says, "It smells like roses." The whole packed church rose with laughter at a newfound kinship that embraced someone else's odor as their own. The stink in the church hadn't changed, only how the folks saw it. The people of Dolores Mission had come to embody Wendell Berry's injunction, you have to be able to imagine lives that are not yours. You have to be able to imagine lives that are not yours. How much easier does that help make it for you to be compassionate with people who might not be exactly like you are? How much easier would it be to be compassionate with people who are exactly like you are? How much easier would that make it for you to be compassionate with yourself? Sometimes we are kinder and happier with other people than we ever are with ourselves. We're the toughest people on ourselves, aren't we?
Yes.
If compassion begins at home, if you know who you are, if you are connected with yourself and your true self, and you know who you are and you can accept that and understand it, then you can go into a world that is maybe not perfect and begin to understand and be compassionate with people who are not like you. What an idea. What a way to make the world a more beautiful place, do you think?
Yes.
Yes. And that's what we hope always to do. That's what we hope always to do. Commitment now, that's a whole different story. Isn't it? I don't think many of us are committed to ourselves all the time. And certainly it's not easy to be committed to somebody else all the time, is it? So how do you decide what to commit to and what not to commit to? That's a big question. Okay? You commit to what feels right for you, what is yours to do, only yours to do. Okay? You commit to what other people want. This means yes, this means no, and this means I don't have a clue what you're talking about. Okay. But it only is an important thing if it's real. Does that make sense? So for a woman in an unhappy marriage to commit to the marriage is maybe a wrong thing to do. But the one thing the one commitment that always is right, is your commitment to yourself and to your concept of the divine and to your capacity to live your life well. That's always right, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely always right. And so this is the thing that we start from, is this part of us inside that we need to take care of more than anybody else. Because who's going to take care of you besides you?
No
My
one.
sister,
We can make it up, can't we, any way we want. But the truth of the matter is, it's really us that knows what we want to do. And we got to know what that is to begin with. Well, that's one of the reasons we come here, isn't it? To talk with each other on Sunday morning and to go to the classes and to be involved in what goes on here so that we can be with other people who have like minds, who understand us, who can work with us to become the better that we are. And sometimes when we get confused, yeah, there is somebody that can help us. He's called the practitioner. It's the guy with the stole over there. Or it's the minister. Or it's the other people in the center who are here to help you. Okay? Because they understand the same things that you understand in the same way that you understand them, they can be more help to you. Now, this is true of all faiths and all practices. Does that make sense? So if your real help comes from the Catholic priest, that's who you visit. If your real help comes from your Mormon bishop, that's where you go. If your real help comes from a place like that where we know that we are responsible for our own healing and for our own lives, this is where we come. And we talk with each other and we communicate with each other and we make that holy triangle with each other. And we grow this thing together. And it's all good. About commitment. You've probably heard this phrase, this quote before. William H. Murray. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy. He incidentally was did you know who he was? Anybody ever hear this before? He was a mountain climber. He climbed Mount Everest and places like that. But he said, until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Have you seen this? All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of the Goethe's couplets, whatever you can do, or dream you can, begin it. Boldness has genius and power and magic in it. Commit to your own life first.
Amen.
So, yeah, thank you. Then commit to the guy that sits next to you in the chair. Create those beautiful triangles. And allow life to be as beautiful as you want it to be. It's your dream. Make it happen.
That's right.
Namaste.
That's beautiful. Namaste.
I see your light. I see your beauty. I feel your heart when I see you smile. I see your light. you are. You are love.
Well, we are blessed. So it's time to share. Time to share our love. It's time to share our wisdom. It's time to share abundance. On your program, there's a statement. Would you read it with me, please? Joyfully I give what you ask due. For I know that as I give, I allow the abundant nature of the universe to flow through me now. I am so blessed, and so it is.
I am so grateful for all that I have.
right now with the abundance of God in our hands, we are grateful for all of the talent and treasure you bring to this room and to our lives. We know that these funds are used for the benefit of this organization and also for the greater benefit of this place in which we live. And we know that as we give, we also receive, and we receive abundantly. And so it is.
So it is.
Something wonderful is happening right now.
Something wonderful is happening right now.
It is this thing called life.
It is this thing called life.
Life is